welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you how to make some really easy liquid latex wounds. For this you need some liquid latex, some plain flour, I've got strong white flour here, and an empty yogurt pot or just a disposable container that you don't mind getting dirty, and just something that you can obviously bin afterwards. I'm just eyeballing this completely, and I've just poured a little bit of latex into the yogurt container, and again I've just put a bit of flour in. I think I put a bit too much in. Now I'm using a knife. This is actually a plastic knife. I know it doesn't look like it because it's silver, but it is. And I'm just mixing the mixture together. Again, it's all about eyeballing it. You want to try and get like a really thick, doughy type consistency that's a little bit on the runny side, but not too thick, if that makes sense. I spent far too long just mixing this up, stirring it away, and I later realised that I think this messed up because I used strong white flour and not just normal plain flour, but you can use anything that you have in the house. I've actually gone on to use these wounds for a couple of different looks and they turned out completely fine. So yeah, it just requires a little bit of elbow grease and just keep mixing. Then I'm taking this chopping board. This is not actually one that I use for cooking. So again, something you don't eat off, you can use like a table or just a plank of wood. And I'm just taking that mixture and just roughly spreading it onto the surface. I've actually switched to using a spatula because I found it a little bit easier. But as you can see, my mixture is a little bit lumpy, and I think that is because of the flour. What I'm doing is I'm literally just creating wounds that are like all different shapes and sizes. I don't have anything particular in mind, so I thought I'd just wing it and create some different shapes and sizes. So yeah, you can use these for like zombie look, for bite marks, for cuts, grazes, anything like that. You can make them all like different sizes, like thickness, length, all the rest of it. So once I've got all my little shapes and sizes on my chopping board, I'm taking a little bit of latex on this spatula. Again, I poured a little bit too much out at first, and I'm just trying to create like a little thin flap. I'm just creating a border just with plain latex around all of these wounds. This will just help me blend it into the skin a little bit easier and also help me lift it off the chopping board a bit better as well. It will kind of create a flatter surface just on the outside. And I think that bit is quite important because that's the part where you would like blend it in with your foundation or your face paint just to make it look a little bit flawless. As you can see though, I have gone a little bit heavy-handed with the liquid latex, but that's completely fine. It just means it'll take longer to dry. So once you're happy with the way that it looks, you just need to leave it overnight to dry completely. You could use a hairdryer to speed the whole process up, but of course my hairdryer blew up like a week ago and I don't have one to hand, so I literally left mine overnight to dry, which isn't ideal. The next morning, this is what it looked like, and as you can see, the latex has become quite clear because that's just the way that it dries, and I appreciate the wounds aren't really a pretty colour, but don't worry about that. I'm just going to take my plain flour, and again, I really should just learn and use a teaspoon, but I've got too much of it. I want to give all the wounds a very generous dusting of flour. You could also use face powder for this, it's the same difference, but I mean, flour is obviously a lot cheaper, so why wouldn't you use that? As you can see, I've just dusted it all over. This is just to stop the latex sort of sticking back on itself. Then use either your nail or a spatula, and you want to try and find a little flap just on the edges, like the thinnest bits of latex on the outside bit, and start peeling it off very carefully. As you can see, while I'm peeling it off, I'm also dusting the back of the wound with some powder because again, the latex will just stick back onto itself. You want to work your way all the way around the board and just lift off all of the wounds in one piece. They should come off pretty easily once you've found like a starting point to sort of pick at it. So when you're done, your wound should look something like this. Again, they're not a very pretty sight, but you can't really make Halloween look that pretty, can you? So just to show you how I'd use one of these wounds, I'm pouring a little bit of liquid latex into a disposable container, and again I'm just using a sponge that's just cheap and nasty. I literally bought a pack of like 100 of these on eBay, and I'm just stippling a little bit of liquid latex all along my arm. Again, you can use it on your face, on your chest, on your legs, anywhere you want, but I'm just using this as glue to stick one of the small wounds down on my arm. Once I'm happy with the positioning of it, I'm going to go around the outside of it just to make sure there aren't any bits that are sticking up. Then I'll have to wait a couple of minutes for that to dry, or again you can use a hairdryer if you have one, and once it dries it looks something like this. I'm then going to go in with some foundation. I will say that matching up a wound to your actual skin colour is very difficult. I always use different concealers and foundations, and it's never really going to be perfect. I don't quite know why that is, but it is quite difficult. This is probably the closest match I've ever found in terms of foundation, but I've just gone along the outsides of that. I don't need to worry about the inside too much because I'll be covering that up in a minute. But I'm also just going to take a dusting of powder and just set that foundation in place. Again, I just use flour for this. I didn't even use actual face powder. I'm then going into some black eyeshadow. I'm just dotting that into the deepest parts of that wound. So there will be some bits that are thinner than others, and I want to make them look as deep as possible. So I'm just dotting that black eyeshadow into the deeper parts and kind of around the outsides too. Then I'm taking this red sort of blood coloured grease paint that I have from Makeup Forever. Again, I'm taking it on an eyeshadow brush and I'm just working that into the black eyeshadow. Again, just to give the illusion of a bit of depth, but also blood. I'm going to dot that around my arm, and then I'm just taking like a dry brush and kind of feathering it out a little bit, just because you don't want to see brush marks. Next, I'm taking coagulated blood. This is also called scab blood, and it's not going to move, so I'm just going to put that into the little hollows on my arm. But then I'm going to take a spatula, and obviously be really careful when you do this. Like, it's not sharp, but I feel like maybe you could injure yourself. I don't know. Just take that blood and you just want to kind of work it backwards and forwards. I kind of want to make it look as though my arm's been scratched, if that makes sense. So I've done that, but I thought I'd move on to like the liquid blood, and this is like regular fake blood. I'm just going to pour a little bit into those scratches. I want it to kind of run down my arm, give it that wet look so it looks like a fresh scar. And again, I'm just taking my spatula, I'm just going to go up and down in the same direction just to make it look as though I've been scratched. I'm not necessarily picking up any more product, I just want it to be all different shades of red, so I'm just sort of working with what I have. But this is the finished look. I really hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, then please give it a big thumbs up. Check out my other video, which is very similar to this. It's just a different way of making liquid latex wounds. Depending on what you want to use them for, there are 2 different methods. So yeah, don't forget to check that one out and give this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to share it with your friends. And as always, if you do recreate any of these looks for Halloween, then please tag me, because I absolutely love seeing people recreating my looks. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!